Look, we have a new book, The 5 Busy Honeybees. We have our own little baby bee, don't we? Let's see what this book is about. This is by Lance Douglas. The long, cold winter is over, and the bright spring sunshine begins to warm the home of the 5 little honeybees. The sweet-smelling flowers outside cause the 5 little honeybees to dance with excitement. Look at that. Inside the hive, their mother, the queen bee, declares, "It's springtime. The flowers are blooming, and you know what that means. Now get busy, my 5 little honeybees." The 5 little honeybees quickly get to work. Each bee knows what she must do to help make delicious honey. The first little honeybee quickly flies out the door and searches for the blossoms with the sweetest nectar. She will carry the nectar back to the hive where it will be turned into honey. The second little honeybee also quickly flies out of the hive, but she is in search of the blossoms with the richest yellow pollen. She will load her pollen baskets to be so heavy that she can barely fly back to the hive. All the little pollen that's in the air. Back at the hive, the second honeybee will place the pollen into the wax cells to be used as food for the growing baby. Oh, the growing baby bees. The third little honeybee follows her sisters out the door. However, she is not searching for nectar or pollen. She is looking for cool, clear water. She will carry the water back to the hive to be shared with her sisters and to help keep the hive cool during the hot summer days. The fourth little honeybee stays inside the hive to help her mother, the queen. The queen will be laying many eggs every day so there can be new bees to help with the work of the hive. The fourth little honeybee will feed the pollen to the growing baby bees. She also helps to keep the hive clean and neat. Oh, there's all the babies. The fifth little honeybee will also stay at home. She is stronger than her sisters, so she will stand by the door to make sure no unwanted creatures get into the hive and steal their precious honey. While she stands guard, she will fan her wings to blow air through the hive to keep it cool. Ooh, that looks hard. From sunup to sundown, the 5 little honeybees work tirelessly to fill their hive with honey. When the summer is over and the leaves start to fall, the 5 little honeybees share their honey with their friend, the beekeeper. The beekeeper will be sure to leave enough honey in the hive to last the hungry bees through the winter. Look at that. The beekeeper carefully takes the honey out of the honeycomb. He fills many jars with honey and returns the empty honeycomb to the beehive. The bees are excited for spring so they can start working again. He's scraping up the wax, isn't he? But for now, it's time to rest. Oh, winter must be resting time, huh? Wow, that's a fun story. Now there's a lot of more things we can learn. Unbelievable. A single bee will produce only 1/12 of a teaspoon of honey in her lifetime. Wow, that's less than we put on toast, isn't it? During the busy nectar flow months, worker bees live 6 weeks. During her 6-week lifespan, the worker bee will progress from one duty to another, beginning at nurse bee and completing her life by foraging for water, nectar, and pollen. So all 5 of the honeybees, everyone gets a turn to do each job. That's nice. Honeybees will travel up to 3 miles from their hive to collect water and forage for nectar and pollen. And they're the only insects that produce food for humans. Honey is the only food that includes all the substances necessary to sustain life, including water. Oh, there's so many more things. Bees communicate with each other inside the hive by dancing in figure-8 patterns. That tells the other bees where to find water and rich sources of nectar and pollen. A typical beehive can produce up to 400 pounds of honey per year. And to make 1 pound of honey, worker bees in a colony must visit 2 million flowers. Wow! Fly over 55,000 miles and take the lifetime work of 300 bees. Whew! That's a lot. Now, I don't know if you noticed, but our author gave us a lot of real information. It's not just the story in here. So this is a traditional dome-shaped beehive, and it was called a skip. But years later, they started making those square beehives like we saw here at the end, like this. That's what we see a lot of nowadays. But we still think of those as beehives, don't we? Let's see, a colony of bees is highly organized, containing 1 queen and up to 100,000 worker bees. That's a lot of bees. Worker bees are undeveloped females who instinctively carry out their specific duties throughout their lifespan. They get to do one of those 5 duties, don't they? Honeybees are attracted to blossoms containing the sweetest nectar rather than to the brightest colors. While on those nectar-rich blossoms, she sucks the nectar through her tube-like tongue and fills her special honey stomach. She will return to the hive where the nectar will be transferred to other worker bees who will add enzymes to the nectar until it is suitable for storage as honey in the honeycomb. Honeybees have special pollen baskets on their back pair of legs. Pollen is loaded into these baskets and carried back to the hive to be deposited into the cells. So in real life, they're not baskets like that, but they're just little pouches on their legs, huh? After filling their baskets with pollen, the pollen is delivered to the hive and stored in cells near the developing baby bees, the larvae. Pollen is the primary source of protein for the developing bees. Like all living things, honeybees need a drink of water on a hot summer day. Additionally, water is sprinkled in tiny droplets throughout the hive, creating an evaporative cooling system as the bees circulate air through the hive, maintaining a steady temperature. They don't want to get too hot in there, do they? Designated nurse bees are responsible for feeding the developing bee larvae. The protein found in pollen is essential for this process. Beginning at the hive entrance and throughout the hive, strategically positioned bees fan their wings to create airflow through the hive. Additionally, the hive entrance has a small army of guard bees who patrol the entrance. They sound an alarm at the first sign of trouble, alerting the rest of the colony to go on the attack. Ooh, that's why you shouldn't threaten a beehive, huh? When harvesting honey from the beehive, a beekeeper must leave enough honey to last the bees through the cold winter months. This will be their only food for spring. The process of removing the honey from the comb is called extracting. The honeycomb is uncapped with a hot knife. So right there he's taking a hot knife to take the wax off the top and then rapidly spun in an extractor, causing the honey to flow out of the cells. So it spins it so the honey can come out right there. There's all the jars of honey. During the cold winter months, bees will cluster tightly together and create a vibrating motion to generate the heat necessary to maintain the temperature inside the hive. Well, that's interesting. So in the summer, they keep the hive cool, and in the winter, they keep it warm. Very interesting. The queen bee will leave the hive only once in her lifetime. The purpose of her single flight will be to mate with several male bees known as drones. During the peak summer and spring months, the queen bee will lay up to 1,000 eggs daily through her 3 to 4 year lifespan. Wow, she lives a lot longer, doesn't she? In a box hive, the bottom is the brood nest. It's reserved for the queen to lay her eggs and for pollen storage. Honey is stored in the upper boxes. Male honeybees, called drones, are much larger than worker bees. Their sole purpose is to mate with the queen once in her lifetime. Drones are permitted to remain in the hive in case the queen dies and a new queen is created. Otherwise, drones have no purpose. Most will be driven from the hive in the winter. Worker bees can turn a normal egg that has been laid by the queen into a queen bee by feeding it royal jelly. As the queen bee ages and her egg production decreases, the worker bees sense this decrease and they create a new queen who will leave the hive only once to mate, and the cycle begins again. The miraculous life of the honeybee has brought wonder, awe, amazement, and joy into my life and the life of my family. My hope is that it can do the same for you. Lance Douglas, author. Very cool. I like to learn more about bees. Wouldn't it be fun to go see a honeybee hive? I hope you enjoyed that story. I did.